Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We start today's video with a delivery crew in downtown Chicago who came face-to-face with a Mercedes driver blocking a loading zone. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Blocked our delivery, threw a tantrum, and then tried to charm her way out. Back when I was working furniture delivery in Chicago, I got used to the usual obstacles: tight stairwells, cranky customers, elevators that broke down at the worst times, but nothing could make a delivery crew groan like pulling up to a building and seeing the loading zone blocked by some car that clearly didn't belong there. That day, sure enough, we turned onto the street and spotted a shiny Mercedes-Benz sitting smack in the middle of the curbside loading zone, hazard lights blinking like that somehow made it legal. We didn't have a choice. The sofa we were delivering was massive, and this was downtown Chicago. Parking spaces don't exactly grow on trees. My boss maneuvered our truck into the lane right next to the Mercedes, effectively blocking it in. It meant we'd have to take the furniture down the ramp, around the Mercedes, and then back up onto the curb before we even got inside. Extra hassle, but we figured it'd be in and out, 5 minutes tops. We hustled, muscling the sofa through the lobby, up the service elevator, and into the apartment. The customer was thrilled, tipped us, and we started heading back to the truck. Easy job. We were already thinking about our next stop when we heard it, a shrill, furious voice bouncing off the glass towers around us. "You're blocking me in!" There she was, mid-40s, designer sunglasses perched on her head, manicured nails flashing as she gestured wildly at her Mercedes. She was practically foaming at the mouth, her voice carrying loud enough to make half the block turn and watch. "You can't park here! Move your truck right now! I have places to be!" My boss, who'd been doing this long enough to develop the patience of a saint and the steel spine of someone who's dealt with too many entitled people, didn't flinch. He calmly wiped his hands on a rag, looked her square in the eye, and said, "Ma'am, we're in a loading zone. You're not supposed to be here. But if you want, you can call the police. I'm not moving the truck until they get here." It was like watching someone flip a switch. One moment, she was pure rage. The next, you could almost see the realization hit her. She glanced up at the bright yellow sign above her Mercedes, "Loading zone, no parking." She had parked illegally, blocked us from doing our job, and was now about to get herself a ticket if she actually called the cops like she'd threatened. Her whole demeanor changed. The anger melted into wide-eyed panic, and then into an overly sweet, almost syrupy voice. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I shouldn't have parked here. That was my mistake." She smiled nervously, twisting a lock of her hair around her finger. "And I really shouldn't have yelled at you. You're just doing your job. I'm so sorry for making you work around my car." I swear, it was like she transformed into a completely different person in 30 seconds flat. Gone was the screeching banshee, and in her place was a woman desperately trying to charm her way out of a ticket. She even gave this little laugh, the kind people use when they're trying to pretend nothing serious just happened. What was I thinking, right? My boss wasn't cruel. He wasn't interested in escalating the situation. He gave her a long look, then shrugged. Apology accepted. Just don't park in loading zones. Makes everyone's life harder. She nodded like a bobblehead, gushing thanks, promising it would never happen again. We shook our heads, climbed back into the truck, and pulled away to the next stop. As we turned the corner, my boss chuckled. Funny how fast people change when they realize they're about to screw themselves. We could have called her bluff. We could have let her summon the police and stood there. She explained to an officer why her Mercedes was parked illegally in a clearly marked loading zone. But honestly, her panicked backpedaling and desperate attempt to make nice was almost better than watching her get a ticket. I'd bet good money that every time she's about to slip into a loading zone now, she remembers the day she almost called the cops on herself. Reminds me of the story where a woman parked in a construction unloading zone and refused to move, got blocked in, tried to get out and rammed the porta potty. Police arrested her for a number of things, including child endangerment. Her kid was in the back. Karma at its finest. And our second story. Want your contract upheld? Okay. About 2 years ago, I had a customer complain that we had raised the price of his phone contract. I work for one of the main UK mobile phone companies here as a customer service rep. I've had my fair share of terrible customers and ridiculous requests, but this was the straw that broke my back. So every year we have a price increase in March. It's the rate of inflation is published in November plus 3.9%. This is in all contracts, has been for as long as I've worked there. Every year we send a letter out in February to let people know. And every year we get calls asking, WTF is this? Most of the time I deal with these fairly well. I explain they agreed to it in their contract and occasionally read the exact part of said contract. What makes it more delicious is if they bought it in store, they have a physical copy. So I ask, do you see where you signed your name in the box that says, I have read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract? Well, just above there, the box above that says, I understand that as of March, the price will increase by a rate of CPI plus 3.9%. And that normally ends those arguments. Well, one day I'd spent all day dealing with these calls, and I get a guy call, let's call him Kevin. He complains about the price increase, saying how he never agreed to it in his contract, that his contract says it's, let's say, 30 pounds, and that's what he agreed to, no more, no less. He would never agree to something where the price was going to change. After the normal back and forth of explaining it, how all companies do it, not just us, petrol, food, shops, books, everything, but he was having none of it. Around about the time most people accept and give up, he was still going strong, going in loops, repeating the same arguments I've shot down already. At one point, he says he never read it, so it shouldn't apply. I asked him, sir, if you don't read the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit sign and do 70 miles per hour there, you will still get stopped by the police. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it's not correct. Besides, you signed the box saying that you had read it, so I'm afraid you were aware of it. Now, that was perhaps me allowing my emotions to get in the way, but he didn't like that at all. He said if he doesn't get the contract reverted to what he agreed, he would cancel his direct debit and see us in court. I noticed earlier during the conversation that his contract was actually 60 pounds and that his first 3 months were half price, but the agent who added the discount added an undated 50% discount instead of the 3 MHP discount that auto removes. Well, given the call was an hour long and I was overdue my break, I finally said, okay, sir, on this occasion I'm willing to waive the price increase for you and revert your plan to its original agreed upon price. Because I can't stop the increase, I will add a discount of his increase here to the line, and as you've stated, you want your plan to be put back to what you agreed to, so the 50% discount you have has now been removed. The plan is back to 60 pounds. He tries to talk, but don't worry, sir, we won't be making you repay the backdated discount from the last 12 months. That's not how it works here. So I can confirm that your plan will remain at the agreed price of 60 pounds. After stunned and silence, he recovers and asks, what do I mean 60 pounds? I explain that he agreed to a contract of 60 pounds per month with 3M half price, but that the wrong 50% discount had in fact been added and had been left on longer than was intended. He told me to leave it alone, not do anything, but it was too late. He'd already confirmed he wanted it, and even if he hadn't, we have a system in place to report excessive or incorrect discounts, which I would have been reporting him on. But this was much more enjoyable. In the end, it was escalated to manager who stuck by my actions to remove the incorrect discount, and in fact removed my discount for the CPI as it's policy not to discount these. It went above her to the executive complaints team, who I followed up with, and noticed he was given a letter of deadlock that he could try taking to Ofcom. It felt great. The guy had an incredibly poor attitude, spoke to me like I was his to do with as he wanted, and wanted me to spit his day out in a tantrum. I claimed the victory in the name of those who work in a role with direct customer interactions when they treat you like nothing and we're truly horrible people. And our last story. HOA tried to fine my family farm $1,000 a day. I live on a family farm that's been here for 4 generations. Cattle, hayfields, tractors, barns. The farm next to us got sold off years ago to a developer who crammed in a bunch of mini mansions with an HOA attached. Those houses back right up against our fences. At first, I thought nothing of it. City people want to play country? Fine, as long as they leave me alone. But no, they couldn't do that. The HOA started sending me letters. The first one came on fancy letterhead telling me the tractor parked at the front of my field was unsightly. I called the number at the bottom. Me, this is a working farm. That tractor isn't decoration. It's what puts food on your table. HOA rep, well, perhaps you could move it out of the view of the street. Me, perhaps you could stop looking over my fence. Click. I figured that was the end of it. Wrong. The letters kept coming every week. Complaints about the barns, about the sound of tractors seeding in spring, even about the smell of livestock. One letter actually said your operations are not in harmony with the aesthetic of our neighborhood. Buddy, my cows don't care about your aesthetic. The final straw came one Saturday when my grandfather spotted strangers poking around our barn. He grabbed his double-barreled 12-gauge and went out to see what was going on. Grandpa, you boys lost? Because if you're not, you're about to be. Stranger, we're inspectors with the HOA. We have the right to check that your outbuildings comply with community standards. Grandpa cocked the shotgun. This land's fenced and posted. You take one more step, you'll find out what community standards really are. They left real fast. I was proud of him for not turning them into fertilizer. The next week, I got a letter saying I was being fined $1,000 a day until I removed the offending structures and machinery. I called their office. Me, I'm not part of your HOA. HOA lady, all properties visible from our neighborhood fall under community regulation. Me, that's not how property law works. If your inspector set foot here again, they'll leave in handcuffs or on a stretcher. Your choice. Of course, the HOA called the county sheriff. Good thing I've known him my whole life. He grew up 3 farms over. Sheriff pulls up, tips his hat, heard we got some excitement. I explained the whole mess, then he drove over to the HOA clubhouse to hear their side. According to him, they demanded he take immediate action to protect their inspectors from hostile landowners. He told them flat out, Sheriff, the farm's posted. You set foot there again, you're trespassing, and considering he's got livestock, a shotgun for predators isn't unreasonable. If I get another call, it's your inspectors I'll be arresting. Apparently that didn't go over too well. A week later, I got a call from some fancy lawyer telling me to cease and desist all operations until a court date. I handed it to my lawyer. He laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. Lawyer. First off, a court has to issue a cease and desist, not some HOA attorney. Second, your family's been farming there longer than those houses have existed. You're about as bulletproof as it gets. We drafted a polite response. Shove it. I went to one of their meetings out of curiosity. It was full of people nodding along while Karen, the loudest board member, ranted. Karen, the developer told us that farm was going to be sold. He said it was only temporary. Now our property values are ruined because of that tractor, those barns, and that smell. I stood up. Let me make this real simple. We've been here 4 generations. 5th one's already learning to drive the tractor. We're not selling. We're not stopping. You move next to a farm, you live next to a farm. That's the deal. Dead silence. The HOA hasn't bothered me much since. Their lawyer must have explained what losing in court would cost. The sheriff made it clear he wasn't playing their game either. Meanwhile, I've added a new twist. Every time I seed the fields in spring, I park the big tractor right by the fence line, clean it up so it shines, and let it sit there idling for an hour. It's my way of saying hello to Karen and the rest of the mini mansion brigade. My grandfather says it best. They wanted the country life? Well, now they got it. Your grandfather nailed it. They wanted the country life, but without the actual country. Now they've got the full farm experience, whether they like it or not. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.